Good morning, one and all. This is J. Ragashri. On behalf of Team C, I am presenting our study on supply chain of incense sticks manufacturing at VRX. The objective of the study is to learn the manufacturing processes and then to analyze the supply chain management using value stream mapping and environmental metrics to identify possible areas of improvement, like what measures can be implemented and further recommendations are suggested. So the methodology that we followed was an interview with the manager of the incense sticks unit, and we interacted with the workers to know about the occupational hazards and working conditions, their salary, are they very satisfied with the industry, and the data was used for interpretation and further recommendation. Okay. So data collection. So the questions that we asked them is given here, and based on their responses, we came to a conclusion. So it's basically industry, and the small unit manufactures incense sticks using natural ingredients. That is the major. I have to emphasize this because other units uses some chemical ingredients, but here we are sticking only to natural ingredients. And it provides job opportunities to unemployed women. This is one of the important aspects that I have to stress here, because women empowerment is being motivated at GRI, and it is one of the profit-making units in GRI. So the value stream mapping of the incense sticks manufacturing is the raw materials which are procured by transportation using van once in 3 months, and the labor as well as raw material together they manufacture the incense sticks, and the finished products are incense sticks as well as jawad powder, and it is being sold to the customers, and it's an open loop because the wastes are not recycled properly. So from the waste, they are generally disposed of into the environment. So the raw materials used are sandal powder, gravia powder, gum powder. Gum powder is basically to help in the adherence of the raw materials, and charcoal powder which will help in ignition, and rose powder and some herbs, and bamboo sticks, water, sandalwood oil for jawad powder, and for flavoring purposes we use some essence, polythene cover, cardboard box, bottles are used for packaging. So these are the raw materials and the details as where they are obtained. Herbs and other products, they just get it from Madurai. Glass bottles from Chennai. Plastic box, labels and polythene sheets from Sivakasi. This is because they get cheap products from Sivakasi. So the manufacturing procedure for both incense sticks as well as jawad powder. All the powder is for incense sticks. The raw materials are mixed, and the gum powder is also mixed in the ratio, like if you take 100 kg of raw materials, 50 kg should be the gum powder, and a batter is made similar to the tea batter that we use, and it is made into small box, and then it is rolled manually, and sticks are being inserted, and at last in the final stages it is immersed in the essence, and then it is kept for drying, and the products are dried in room temperature, and no special requirement is needed for the drying process. And for jawad powder, it's very simple. The sandalwood powder and the sandalwood oil is just mixed and then dried. Next, so the simple procedure. So what are the products available? We have incense sticks as well as jawad powder in different scales, like in 5 inches, 8 inches, and the cost is also given. 10 sticks per pack ₹3, and jawad powder in 2 options, like 2 gram per bottle and 8 gram per bottle, ₹20, 55, etc. And incense sticks are available in 10 flavors, like sandal, rose, jasmine, Manoranjidam, Marikoyundu, Talampu, Pichipu, Javadu, Intimate and Sankranti. The sandal and Sankranti, most favored options among the customers. So let me tell about the packaging, because this shows the environmental aspect of the industry, because I told you from the previous slide we have 3 different types of packaging for 3 different types of incense sticks. So the first one is packaging materials is the printed polythene covers. The sticks are packed in polythene covers, only one packaging. And the other is the second one, we have a label and then a cellophane paper. Okay. And the next one, so this is we have a printed cardboard, and then inside we'll have a plastic covering, and then this cardboard has a polythene covering in order to increase its durability. And the last one, Javadu, there is a plastic lid, a glass bottle, a label, and apart from that we have a cardboard box as another covering for it. Okay. So and so what are the energy and water requirements? As this is entirely manual, it does not require any energy, and but since we have to work in an environment, lighting and ventilation, only that sort of energy is required for this unit. And drying is also done in room temperature, and no additional energy is required. Every worker can manufacture from 3,000 to 5,000 sticks per day, so which can be like, if 10 workers are involved, we can make 30,000 sticks per day, and no machine is involved, no energy, and only 50 liters of water is consumed per day, and this process is entirely energy or water intensive. Sales and profit, 10 women are employed, and they are giving 150 rupees per day as a remuneration, and there's one boy, sales boy. He is to supply to the local residents and commercial institutions, and so his commission is based on how much he sells per day, and bonus and other incentives are also provided. And you just have to see this, because see, the monthly sales of the incense sticks reaches up to 1 to 1.5 lakhs, and they get a sure profit of 10% per month. So this is a very small cottage industry giving a big profit, and this is for incense sticks. When you see with Javadu powder, 20% profit they are getting out of this 2 products, and the profit and the sales goes high from September to January because of Margali and all those Pongal season, festival season. The products they just shoot out. CSR initiative that they are taking in the research, in that unit, is they only use natural products. Other chemicals are not involved, and they employ local people, local women laborers are involved, and this gives them, so when women are empowered, naturally their their status also improves, and they are also giving training and certification to visually challenged people. It is very interesting to know that the alumni of this training program have started their own incense sticks manufacturing unit, and they are also providing raw materials to this institution, and this is one of the biggest achievement that the unit is doing apart from profit making. And so what is the working environment? Like, the women work from morning 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. They are provided with lunch and they work for 8 hours. When we visited, what we observed was poor lighting was seen in the place. Just there were only 1 tube light, and 3-4 women were working in that, and ventilation was not a problem. But still, when we interacted with them, prolonged sitting and working hours has resulted in back pain in some of the workers. And as you know, some people have a sort of headache when we inhale jasmine flowers or some scents. So because of this, due to various scents, the people, they are exposed to headaches and some problem. And as I said, poor lighting can also lead to vision problem in the long run. And no women were found to use the gloves while they were working. When we asked them, why weren't you using the gloves? They just said it is only natural product and we are not so comfortable using it. But I personally think that the particles when they inhale, the particulate matter, it will definitely cause some serious problems in the long run. So we should insist that they should use the gloves while they work. So just the working environment, just see they have to sit here for long, they have to pack, no machine is involved for the work, and so sitting there and doing in improper lighting facilities is going to affect their health. And scope for improvement and recommendation. So we personally suggest that the lighting facilities should be improved, and gloves, we should make it mandatory that the workers should use their gloves while they work. And we asked them, are you getting any recycled bottle for your Jawad powder? They said that they were not interested in getting recycled bottles because the color and the tint of the bottle is not so pleasing for their sales. So we just asked them, we just recommended them, please do go forward with buying the recycled glass and plastics instead of the virgin one. But I don't know how far they are going to implement it. And no fire extinguishers or other safety aspects were found. Though it is a very small unit, we have a lot of paper and charcoal powder. There is a possibility that fire accidents can happen. So fire extinguishers should be present. And agarbatti machines can also be purchased because they have to do manually, they have to mix the batter, and if machines are procured, some of the work can be reduced to a certain extent. And the major markets for these products were the nearby districts. If they could extend their markets to outside other districts as well as other states, it will definitely be a good option because their profit percentage is comparatively high. So what are the lessons that we learned from this project was the entire process involving the manufacturing of incense sticks, and we learned this successful business strategy. It was a profit-making business. It was not a loss or something else. So it's a good option, and we identified major thrust areas for improvements and recommendations. Like I told you, gloves and safety aspects were neglected, and like using of recycled glass and plastic should be implemented. Thank you.
Very good morning to one and all present here. The topic I'm going to cover here is the waste management through the tracing and segregation of plastic waste. These are the things I'm going to describe now. Before going into the supply chain management of plastic waste, I just would like to say some few things about the plastics. Plastics major role in our environmental and economical dimensions in our sustainable development. Plastics are they have a versatile property when compared to other materials like metals and ceramics because they are lightweight and also durable, and they can be used in many industries like packaging, automotive, building, electronic and electrical products. So the replacement of plastics, it decreases the cost and also the environmental impact when compared to the other types of materials. So it is especially using in the packaging industry for processing, storing, transporting, protecting and preserving products. So they are the largest consumer of plastic. It is being used there for the reduction of packaging waste. So this also reduces the during transportation. It helps to reduce the fuel consumption and also the greenhouse gas emission. According to the Science World, for the production of paper bags, every ton of paper bags, it consumes 4 times more energy when compared to the plastic bags, and also the recycling, it consumes about 85 times more energy. So it is also used in building and construction sectors, and because of its properties like durability, strength and its resistance to corrosion, and also the major property of it is low maintenance, and also it is used in water transportation, like PVC pipes we are using in the water transportation, and also in the households, like household surfaces and floor coverings. It also plays a major role in electrical and electronic applications. The use of plastics in LCD, it will consume less energy when compared to the cathode ray tube, and also these are the major applications and properties of plastic. While going to the life cycle assessment, so it is the understanding of an environmental impact of a process or product. It cannot be achieved without a life cycle approach. So here the segregation of plastic waste is done through the reverse supply chain analysis. So what are the challenges in the reverse channel? So because of the low recovery rate, the quantity of secondary raw materials produced is low, so which results in the scarcity of raw materials, and also some other challenges which in the design of recycling systems and the dismantling techniques, and also the recycling costs. So there is a common perception that the environmental impact of most products are contributed by manufacturing and transportation activities, but also the environmental impacts are due to during the product use and end of life stages. So this study aims to identify the ways for plastic waste management, which includes the collection, trading, transportation, sorting, storage, and reprocessing of plastic waste, and also identify where are the opportunities and logical solutions in order to improve the efficiency of the recycling supply chain. This is the plastic forward supply chain where the crude oil is extracted and then it is refined. There are many products from the refinery industry, that is fuels and other products, and also the raw materials of plastics are made it into pellets, which is then sent to the converter and molder, which is called extruder, and the different types of different varieties of materials are made, and then it is going to the retail shop and then to the consumer. So the waste it may be generated from the industry or from the retail shop or from the consumer. So the consumption of the raw material from the oil production industry, it is only 4%. The plastic products contribute only 4%. The virgin plastics are made from the derivatives of crude oil. So first of all, the crude oil and natural gas are extracted from the ground through the refineries, and they are refined into the ethane, propane, and other petrochemical products. Then the ethane and propane are mixed under a high furnace temperature to produce the ethylene and propylene, which is then polymerized into the polyethylene and polypropylene, which we are using in our day-to-day life. So these are some of the plastics which we are familiar with and we are using in our daily day-to-day activities. First one is the polyethylene terephthalate. These symbols are we can see these symbols in our plastic products. So the polyethylene terephthalate is used in our soft drink bottles, cooking oil bottles, peanut butter jars, like that. And high density polyethylene are used in bottles, milk jugs, detergent bottles, etc. And polyvinyl chloride PVC pipes we are using, which is also used in the packaging and also other containers. And low density polyethylene are mainly used in the films and packs. And polypropylene is also a lightweight material and it is low cost when compared to the others. So it also finds many applications. And polystyrene. Polystyrene, it is used to make yogurt pots, meat trays, and also our scales, like that. The other plastics are given as 7, which may be a Tupperware. So these are the plastics we are using. This is polyethylene terephthalate, the water bottles, and second one is the high density polyethylene. Third one is the polyvinyl chloride. This one is low density polyethylene, and the other one is polypropylene. And this protector is polystyrene, and the last one is Tupperware. So we are using the plastics in our daily life, but we don't know how to dispose the plastics properly. So we have to take care of disposing the plastics in a proper manner. That's here the reverse supply chain works. So here, so coming to the plastic recycling supply chain. With all the plastics in all the applications, when it is mixed together, it is estimated that 22.4 million additional tons of crude oil would be needed each year. So the production of plastic consumes relatively lower energy. So and also the plastics can be recycled at the end of the use, typically for 6 times. Plastics are non-recyclable, will be landfilled. So these are the reverse supply chain of plastic. Waste are that is the recyclable waste are reprocessed and it is sent to the converters and then again to the industry. So the main source of plastic waste are the municipal solid waste and other waste. So the major waste streams are municipal solid and commercial and industrial waste streams. In the municipal solid waste streams, we can find bottles, trays, tub, bags, films, electrical and electronic products. In the commercial waste streams, there are mold scraps, packaging materials, plastic pellets and containers. So industrial waste, we can find the plastic waste from molding production. So the plastic waste can be recycled by 2 processes, mechanical recycling or feedstock recycling. So during mechanical recycling, it involves the melting, shredding or granulation of plastic waste. And so before mechanical recycling, the plastic waste are sorted according to their type and color of plastic. So it can be identified by using some other techniques like X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy or infrared spectroscopy. So after sorting the plastic according to their color or type, it is shredded into flakes and it's processed into granules, which is called regranulated plastic raw material. During feedstock recycling, the polymers are broken down into their respective monomers. Then it can again in turn it is used in refineries or petrochemical or chemical production. So there are different feedstock recycling technologies like pyrolysis, hydrogenation, gasification, and thermal cracking. So this is have a greater flexibility over composition, and it is more tolerant to impurities than mechanical, but it requires a high capital investment and also a large quantity of used plastic for reprocessing. The non-recyclable plastics are used in either energy recovery or in So there are 2 approaches to environmental conscious design and manufacturing. The first one is the environmental impact of a product during its life cycle, it can be reduced to zero. That is preventing the waste reduction. For example, usage of biodegradable packaging material instead of other types of. Second one is the reuse of plastic, which when the plastic material is when the recycling is technically or economically infeasible, they can reuse the material. The third one is recycling. There are two types of recycling. One is closed loop recycling, and the other one is open loop. During the closed loop recycling, the material is recycled and they are used for making the same product. Whereas in open loop, it can be added to the virgin polymer and different products. Variety of plastic materials can be made. The third option is the equivalent closed loop recycling. Here the material is added with the virgin and it can be used to make a similar product. So a study in Italy conducted, they estimated that the production of 1 kg flakes of recycled polyethylene terephthalate, it requires 42 to 55 megajoules of energy, whereas during the production of virgin polyethylene terephthalate, it requires 77 megajoules. So here the energy saving during the recovered plastic is more, with 40 to 49 megajoules of recycled polymer. And also the sorting efficiency, it would be 56%, and this is the consumption during the recycling process. And this is the comparison between the use of polythene bags and paper bags. Polythene bags requires less energy, and also it produces less emission when compared to the paper bag. So in the packaging industries, they are mainly using the polyethylene, that is the bottle making. Polyethylene terephthalate and high density polyethylenes are used, which can be collectible and recyclable. Sometimes for the cost reason, they are using the polypropylene, and also polystyrene and polypropylene also recyclable. So we have to sort according to the material which can be recyclable, and so from this I can conclude that the plastic is necessary, it is must in terms of the economic and environmental point of view when compared to the other metals and other materials. So the life cycle analysis of plastic is very important. That is the forward supply chain and also the reverse supply chain is needed for the proper disposal and proper recycling of plastic waste. And also there will be a scope for using the biodegradable plastic in various applications. We have to find the places and we have to replace the biodegradable polymers in place of the other plastics. So tracing and segregation, it would result in a cleaner environment, and also we can use the there will be a sustainable use of plastic.
I am going to present the proposed project. So the title is Waste and Water Management in GRA, a case study. Water management means simply managing the water. So formally, water management is the management of water resources, policies and guidelines. We all know that water, once an abundant natural resources, is now becoming a more valuable commodity due to droughts and overuse. Waste management, same thing. Very simply, waste management means management of waste, that's all. So formally, waste management is collection, transportation, disposal of garbage, sewage and other waste products. Waste management is waste and other variety of solutions for recycling items that don't belong to trash. And it's about how garbage can be used as a valuable resource. Governments in the world, they have been implementing a number of programs to provide potable and clean water to in their respective countries. They have also been implementing number of schemes to recycle waste and make waste into a wealth and recycle used water for purposes. In this background, we all made an attempt to know what is the exist. So about GRI, we all know about GRI, but even then we included here. So GRI is Government of India. It is fully funded by the Ministry of Human Resources, Government of India. It has many departments and centers, and presently we have the institute has 3,501 students, including PhD scholars, and 142 teaching and 168 non-teaching staff. So crisis, why this study emerged? Because demands are increasing every year in the campus, while available resources are becoming more and more limited. And again, individuals, they were not aware of the importance of water. Say for example, while I was staying in the hostel, simply they opened the water tap, they have not closed. So water were wasted, either knowingly or unknowingly. So there was a water crisis during summer in 2014, and it is unfortunate that the institute was closed for 2 weeks. It is known fact, it's known to all. Toilets used the most water on daily basis. So in the objectives of this study, to know the existing waste and water management system in GRI. Next, to identify the problems in the existing waste and water management system in GRI. Next, to find the strategic approach towards waste and water management in GRI. And finally, to suggest suitable measures to improve the waste disposal system and water management in GRI. That too, the methodology for this particular study is we adopted case study method. We also used interview and observation. So needed data and information were collected from primary and secondary sources. The secondary data were collected from the estate office, water department, administrative office, and various departments in GRI. Data will be analyzed using appropriate statistical tools and techniques, including whatever the professor already presented here. The data analysis part will take later. So further my teammates will present.
To one and all, as our assistant professor has rightly said, there was a crisis in GRI. We have nearly 3,000 students in GRI and 140 departments with all the amenities like renewable energy source, reusable, recycling, all the sources we do have, but we are not in a position to fill it up. For example, the water sources for GRI is coming from a speculation pond. We have 2 ponds in university campus. It was not properly maintained, and while during rainy season the waters are not stored properly in those ponds. Same way we have 27 sub pumps, and those pumps are also not properly maintained. Next one, we have 20 small ponds which is bridged, and the bridges also was not properly maintained. So these crisis comes in, and this is not properly maintained by our university. So that crisis starts from not properly used by our university. And daily requirement for our university is 31 lakh, but we are supplying only 2 lakhs to all the department, that too on the basis of rotation basis. Daily it is not provided, and the cleaning process for our water is not properly calculated or significantly set by our department. How it is cleaned or how it is properly managed was not recorded in our institution. But we do have supply chain. Through that, private vendors are looking after the cleaning process and supplying process. So only we are getting at least required amount of water from our university. And everything is from the pond. Normally, we university have a own vehicle and own drivers. They take the water from the pumps and small ponds to the department or the campus where the water is required. Normally, we do waste water in by using it improperly or unmanageable way. So, water requirement is increasing day by day. So, we should have a proper system of water management. For water management, what our university is now doing is, for water management they are getting from local or outside vendors for their daily requirement. They are purchasing outside from the local vendors. We are not able to get water properly from our institutions. Next one is, we have 4 rainwater harvesting system, but whether it was constructed properly by the government rule was not known. We don't have a proper record for that. For waste management, daily as per daily requirement, 1 ton is from mess and canteen. We are getting more than 1 ton of waste from our mess. It is disposed only to local vendor for cattle feeding only. It is not dumped into a land pit, or it is not recycled. We are only selling to the local vendors. We don't know what is the next process of selling that. We are only selling it. Whether it is recycled or what it has been done was unknown. Next one, water waste from campus, like plant waste or material waste or department waste, are again only sold to the local vendors and to the suppliers. We have 4 suppliers for taking electronic waste and plastic waste as well as computer parts. But again, whether it is recycled or reused is not known. Only for computer particles, computer articles, it is, and paper waste are not unknown, and how it is disposed is not known, and we have no proper record in our university. Same way, the sea waste disposal, we had a recycling unit, but because of gravitational problem and cost for pipeline and the order coming from sewage, so they have discontinued that proposal too. So now we have no recycling unit in university, and we have 2 farms in our university, cow farms. From the cow farms, we get the dung and we convert into manure and we supply to the agriculture, and they use for manure purpose. So again, how to overcome this will be continued by our teammates. Thank you.
And all present here. If we construct the recycle plant in our campus itself, means we can reduce the transportation cost, and we can eliminate the CO2 emission during transportation. But in our campus, we have tried to install the biogas plant, but due to gravity problem, we can't able to install it. So we can see any remedy measures to avoid this gravity problem. And if we install the biogas plant in our campus itself, means we can effectively use the waste produced in our campus, and we can incineration process for non-biodegradable products. We can use incineration process, during incineration process, the ash particles are emitted, and we can use this ash particles for cement. We can give it to for cement industries as raw materials, and we can use that ash particles for brick. Now we are they are using that bricks, fly ash bricks. We can use that ash particles as raw material.
Hi, good afternoon everyone, and good afternoon to our professor also. So we just had a small brief study on the weaving unit and the dyeing unit, which is close by Gandhigram itself. So it is a part of a sustainable development in the Gandhigram village itself. So it's a very simple process, and we are really surprised to know that after going there, we found that most of the process adopted there are almost what sir has explained about the cradle to cradle. Probably we didn't know about the jargon of cradle to cradle, but after going there, we found that whatever the process and the product which they were using is like most of it were eco-friendly, environment-friendly, which is very, very friendly to the friendly to our earth. Next slide. Okay, this is an ASIS process. Basically, we just found a small unit. We all went as a group, and all our group members are women too. And this is also a part of the self-help group for the women empowerment by Gandhigram. So it's just a sheer coincidence. So it is a small weaving unit we just saw near on the main road on the NH of the Chinnalapatti village, and a small dyeing unit which we had seen in that's a natural dyeing unit which is near the railway track within the Gandhigram campus itself. And one more synthetic unit, that's our target to, or the plan to see next. So in the weaving unit, the ASIS process is the raw material, cotton, which is supplied by the Gandhigram trust itself. This is a part this is a part of the unit which comes under MSME enterprise, which is like micro, small, medium entrepreneurship, which is initiated by Gandhigram for the empowerment of women for this process. So the raw material is either given by Gandhigram themselves, or they can source it outside also, which is like locally available. So this cotton is it's given to the weavers. So the next process of this is like starching and spindling. So what they'll do that kanji, and spindling is, they'll call it as sittam and all. So they'll just make into a spindle-like thing, and then they'll give it for the dyeing. So the dyeing is also being done externally, which is a part of our unit itself, and the finished product is a sari. So the entire process requires no electrical energy at all. It is all done by the craftsmen. So it's very interesting to know that the process which starts from the raw material to the finished product is completely eco-friendly, and the cycle time for one sari weaving is 3 days, and the salary is approximately 500 rupees per sari, which has been given to the craftsmen. And what we understood from the shop was each sari cost around 2,000 to 3,000 rupees, so which includes the raw material, finished product. So here we might recommend that probably it is like complete work of a craftsman to give the sari to us. So we probably the salary of those weavers should be increased. That is probably the recommendation. There's no electrical requirement in this unit except for minimum lighting requirement, which is the fan light. Fan is also not used much because the yarns might it will fly when they are weaving, or disturbing them when they are weaving. But probably a lighting is required. Our recommendation may be the lighting requirement may be connected to a solar energy. So this is a minimum thing which we could find that okay, we can do some value add in this. And the other value add is like probably giving some salary increase for the weavers, which will be there for a sustainable development for them. And it is a 100% environment friendly finished product. Recommendations of value add which we discussed right now, and serving the community this is a sustainable income for the craftsmen. So once the craftsmen also their workmanship will not be affected by this, and we are also empowering women and the rural families for their continued income. This is the weaving unit. Next. Next is the dyeing unit. Dyeing unit is also similar. The raw material is yarn or the cloth. Yarn comes from the weaving unit, the weavers which they give it here, and the cloth is again, it is a bundle of cloth which is required to produce a shirt. So that is again processing is done. Processing is actually boiling the yarns in the water called the soap nut powder, which in Tamil we call it as a bundi kai. So that is again organic, and the dyeing is done completely through organic dyes like kadukai, the bark of the banyan tree, eucalyptus tree, betel nut and berries, etc. So the dyes are completely organic here, and none of the dyes here are chemical. And the dyeing is also the drying of the, so once we dye the cloth or the yarn, and it is next process is the drying. So the drying is either natural or electric. Electric is very, very minimal. That is, if it is a big cloth, we need to do the drying by electric. Otherwise, they are just hanging it on the just the strings and then doing it by sun drying itself. So the finished product is the dyed yarn and a cloth. So it's very interesting to note that though we thought like there will be some place for us to do some value add in terms of a big value stream mapping, but we are surprised to understand that the complete cycle is like almost to cradle with very less or minimum amount of value adds in terms of our renewable energy. Most probably we can replace those two electric, one is for dyeing and one is for drying the clothes. We can replace those electrical energy into renewable energy. This is the minimum thing which we can do it here. But it's very happy to note that, okay, we are having a very eco-friendly and environment-friendly dyeing, and nothing is going to affect us. So it is a good thing again. The downstream process of the dyed water, we thought there will be some scope for us to understand about how the downstream of the dyed water will be used, whether we can, it will be chemical based or like how to cleanse it and use it. But that also we are happy to understand that these dyed water, after they dye it, they are using it for the landscaping or gardening. But otherwise also they have a process like to recycle the dyed water and to use it again for the upstream first process of the processing. But it's sad to note that, as we saw in the earlier slide, the water scarcity is so, it's unbelievingly so scarce here. So they are not getting, they are purchasing water from outside. So 30 to 40% of their revenues or the profit or the income is being spent on the cost for buying water. So that's a sad part here. Because of this, though they have the equipments for recycling, they could not do that. That's a sad part here. And we can save the 30 to 40% if we have our own source of water. So the findings are that though the plant is well equipped for a recycling process of using the dyed water for upstream process, we found a huge constraint in the groundwater availability. So we can see some of the pictures here. This first is the processing for, like, they use that bundikai first to boil the yarns, and second is for dyeing. These are completely natural dyes, no chemical dyes at all. These dyes, as I said, come from the plants and seeds of different flowers, and that kadukai, pakamattai, and alamaram, the bark of that alamaram and all. And the third is that small dryer, which they use it for drying. After they dye it, they use that dryer. It's like a washing machine dryer which we have, which consumes electricity, very minimal. So they are not even using that as well, because we have good sunshine here. So most of the time they are drying the yarns by using the sunlight only. So dyeing units spend around 30% of the cost in the purchase of the water, which we discussed just now. And this unit trusts on women empowerment, self-help programs, and they are given a salary of around 4,000 per month. Probably this might be increased. This could be increased. Recommendations of the value add is feasibility to improve the groundwater recharge and to provide solar energy for cloth dyeing process, and may market this unit to be 100% organic and eco-friendly in both product and process, because we see the product and the process which they use is like almost close. So probably we can say 80% or 90%. So to make it 100%, we can make this convert into what are the two electrical items which they are using to a renewable energy source. Serving the community, this serves a good example for the sustainable community development, renewable energy in terms of organic products and recycling. It's interesting to know that we can understand the process of cradle to cradle from this small unit. This, the word which we heard from our professor, Probably we might not be knowing, but we are doing. So it's glad to know that. Thank you. And our plans is for, next slide. Okay, this one unit, this is called the jigger, which is used for dyeing big clothes, not the yarns. Yarns வந்து அப்படியே தண்ணியில போட்டு முக்கி முக்கி எடுத்துறாங்க. But for making a khadi shirt அந்த மாதிரி அதுக்கு வந்து dye பண்ணனும்னா they are using this jigger. And these are that kadukkai and bundikotte and all. This is the softener plant or the recycling plant. They have the system, everything in place, but they could not use it because the scarcity of the water. They don't have water and they are buying water from outside. That's dyed water. So plan to do to visit and understand the process in the synthetic dyeing unit, do a process mapping and value stream mapping. Timeline we had fixed for 15 days. Thank you.
Good afternoon, one and all. This is our project, that is supply chain management on manufacturing Ayurvedic Talisadi Churnam. This is a sister institution of Gandhigram, Lakshmi Seva Sangam, which is run by the Gandhigram from the year of 1977. This is one of the juvenile process that was initiated by Gandhigram into the medical field, that they started Lakshmi Seva Sangam, and it is registered in the Act of 1860s as a Tamil Nadu society. Initially it started as a society, now it's as a Sangam. And then in 1980, it's got an order for manufacturing 450 products. Now they are doing 232 products and more. It's a ISO certified institution. The vision of the institution, the social organization not for profit sector, but for the welfare of the people concerned. This is mainly because the CSR activity, all the people, those who are working there are women, mostly women. Last week we just went there, they told that 70 plus women are working, all are widows, veterans, and those who are all previously, now they are working for the empowerment. So the women empowerment stands there in the mission of social organization not for profit but for welfare. And then the mission to charter the needs of a patient through the promotion of traditional medicine. It's Ayurvedic and Siddha medicines are going there. It's because of the principle of Rig Veda, what told the principles that they are following. And Churna is the main product what we are concentrating in our project. Churna is nothing but a dry powder where all the ingredients are just powdered, and if we are going to consume that, we have to add some honey or ghee to consume it. And it is a very long durable, we can't able to waste the products unnecessarily we don't need as a pellets. Our main objective of our study is to learn the churnam preparation from various diseases. Here I concentrated for the cold. Talisadi is a tablet, a churnam was consumed for dry cough as well as the chronic diseases like cough. And then to enhance the efficiency of the plant. What I discussed with the manager, he told that the plant, those are all installed is 30 years back, all are inefficient machines and they are consuming more energy. Now we can also replace, these are recommendations. Still I have to work to that to get the proper data and figures. To enhance the packaging. Coming to the packaging point of view, they are using the plastic papers and plastic containers. It's just a medicine. We are going to use only for 30 days or 15 days or 10 days as per the requirement of the doctor. Why should we go for plastics? Even though if the ingredients what we are using is organic, why should we are going for plastic? That's why we recommended to do in a biodegradable way. Actually that is the bottle what they are manufacturing. There it is a Talisadi tablet. And this is a process. There is a manufacturing from materials from the suppliers. Only these areas are carbon emitting. There's a transportation for materials as well as some other things what they are going to do. And the materials are from the Sirmala Hills, it's near to Bayas, and then Kolli Hills, and from the Virudhunagar district, it's just 100 kilometers from apart. So these transportation cause some carbon emissions. Other than this, it's a completely cradle to cradle system, it's a biological and organic way. And then First of all, we are going for a quality assurance department, and then it goes for raw drug segregation and cleaning. Then we are going for disintegrator, pulverizer, sieving, ball mill, and lab analysis, packaging, and then it's a finished product on. Let's see one by one. It's a quality control. They are having a specialized laboratory as well as for chemical and the biological laboratory, microbiological laboratory. There are more number of professional laboratory technicians are working for this. If the material, raw material which not passes the quality control, it won't go for the next procedure, next process. It will be written back to the supplier itself. And these are the raw materials. The main ingredients of Thali Sadipati is these are indicated in the kilograms, 2 kg of it, and it is Sukku Milagu Tipili in Tamil. They are going for it, and then elachi, white sugar, and bamboo salt. That is a mungil uppu. These are that is the raw material. What at the stage of cleaned process is ready for the next stage. And this is the next stage, is the disintegrator. This is a machine. What I told is this is a 30 years to 40 years before designed machine. It is not at all efficient now. So we are planned for going for the new machines, and it requires this machine is used to produce a coarse powder. This requires 1 labor per day. Per day it's running for 4 hours. For this it costs around 200 rupees of electricity. So this is the efficiency where we are lagging. The manager says that if we are going for outsourcing, they can get efficiently of any, they charge only 100 rupees for this process also. Disintegrator as well as mini mill consume only 100 rupees, but what they are using is cost about 200 for one stage. And this is a mini mill. This is the next stage to get the more finer product than the coarse product. They are using 2 stages for 2 days of product, 2 days of working with the 2 labors. Here they are having 2 mesh techniques, 80 mesh and 100 mesh. These are all the filtering techniques to sewing the machines, sewing the material. It costs about 800, but when they are going for outsourcing, it costs only to 600 to 700 rupees. These are the efficiency what they were lacking. So we are recommending to go for the efficient one by changing the machines. And then sieving section, they here nothing they are doing with the machines. Man-made labor is doing. These are the women what they are working. Saying this is 1 labor per day. They are getting salary of 200. Ball mill. This is optional one. If still they need a fine powder, they are going for this ball mill. Ball mill consumes it takes one labor and 7 hours of process. It needs 490 rupees of electricity. This also a waste. Under the last stage of a lab analysis, at the finished stage of fine powder, we are taking a 50 grams of powder from the process and going for testing. In the lab testing takes 3 days to complete. 1.5 days or 1 day, it depends on the technicians and the technology available there. And finally, the tested products are packing and sent to the outlets. The overview of this product is, finally we get 72 kg of churnam in this process. The raw material of 75 kgs, the 3 kg of waste they are getting from this process. That waste also a completely organic waste. They can use for manure or any other things that for organic only. And then this entire process need 10 days to complete a finished product as well as the packaging. And then it requires 8 labors to complete this 72 kgs of product. And here we can see that cradle to cradle system is exists, that they are going for organic to the organic, not polluting anything. In the case of product aspect, the packaging is polluting, so that's what we are recommending, to change the packaging into the biological, not from the plastic or any other containers. The problem faced while I am visiting there is the plastic boxes and old machines. I have to inquire with the employees and the manager, those who are working there, to get further more details. And then suggest alternative from my point of view is that they are going for the reusable papers instead of sachets like things for powder, rather than going for bottles, and the energy efficient machines. And future work, we are going to formulate the tools and recommendation for the industry to develop their as well as the women empowerment, since it's concentrated on the women empowerment and societal causes. Last few months, statistics says that the entire organization having the returns of 30 lakhs from this organization. So it's a great and tremendous work that they are doing in a biological way, and they are earning this much amount of money. Thanks. We just go for 3-year strategy to develop our nation and our local area. Thank you.
Good afternoon, all. Our project is proposing of turning the household MSW waste into a organic manure industry, and which is leading for another area, that biodiesel production from the Karanja. So this is a proposal which is actually a feasible, possible only, and we have concentrated from the Dindigul Corporation data set, and earlier we had some experience about the Karanja plant features and all, so that we have combined this thing and we join with for the supply chain management project. So why should we are concentrating on MSW of household alone? Is that in Dindigul Corporation daily we are having 149 TPD, that is tons per day of MSW, and per capita waste generation is 0.5 kg, and there is one average concept is that nearly 51% of the waste is organic, and 17% is recyclable, and rest is inert waste. So that there is a calculation of the calorific value of that particular waste which leads for 1751 kilocalories per kg, and 47% is in moisture content. So based on this data set available from the Dindigul Corporation, we are proposing one project, that is that we are choosing one particular area. If Dindigul Corporation is having, for example, if Dindigul Corporation is having 100 watts, then we can concentrate only for 20 watts, which is needs to be contact with the outer circle of the city, so that we can try to collect the waste and we can use our land area, that waste area in the outside of the city. So we are choosing nearly 20 watts and collecting from only household and restaurant, not from the other area. Any industrials, no, we are not trying to get it, because from the household and restaurants only we will try to get the waste which is in organic manner. And we are giving one tree for one home, and we are giving 10 Karanja tree for one restaurant. That is nothing but we are going to growing a tree outside the city in the wasteland. So there is some other data which will be forthcoming, and we are just alerting one tree. Based on that tree, the carbon capture amount will be given as a credit to those homes, so that they can get benefit from the government end. That is the proposal. So by cultivating this, by growing the Karanja tree, we will try to get the profit by the 11th year. So this project is having a long-term benefit to all the people, to the area. So how supply chain works here? So we are going to segregate the waste at the house itself, so that as per the yesterday discussion, that we need to segregate the waste in 3 manners, like organic, plastics, which is recyclables, and other very rare inert waste. So that this organic waste can be directly used for landfill or dump purpose, and we can go for manure manufacturing. Okay, and also one important point is that the person who is going to collect this MSW needs to verify the 3 bags, whether it is properly segregated or not. If it is not, they will not take it and they will keep it in front of their home itself. And storage of this organic waste with dry cow dung, and if we keep like that and we store it for 1 month, and it will be turned as a manure. That is what's happening. That is the special feature for the dry cow dung, which will try to turn it as a organic manure. Automatically we are getting a manure, then we can use that manure for agriculture purpose. And also that particular waste needs to be kept in a very big dump tank or something like, and there needs to be a small outlet in the downside so that we can collect the leachate, which is also a liquid form, and it is full of rich of nutrients, and we act as an energy tonic for the agriculture purpose. So selling that organic manure is making a money incoming for the industry. Getting leachate for 1 month, that is also incoming income for money income, and selling recyclables, that is plastic, glass, metals and all, it is also income for the industry. And selling karanja seeds, that is a future, that is after some years, that is also incoming for the industry. So how now how the process supply chain acts here is that, as I earlier discussed, that I am going to consider only 20 wards from a city. I am just calculating, one rough calculation happened considered here. So I am going to take 1000 units, that is 1000 homes, which includes restaurants also. And as per the earlier data available, 0.5 kg is the waste generation from one city for one unit. So nearly 500 kg of MSW is generated from these units. So 51% is the organic in nature, that is the source we have already available. So 250 kg per day of organic is available. So minimum 50 kg leachate formation is happened because again 47% is in having average moisture content. We will get 50 kg leachate, and we are selling the leachate for 10 rupees per kg, and we were getting 500 revenue from 1 day from one particular that 20 watts. And also cow dung needs to be used for the composting that organic waste. So we need to give some money for the cow dung to the farmers. So what we can do is that we are getting some waste from the restaurants also. So we need to convey the news that the waste which you are giving needs to be somewhat good in quality, not in very bad condition. If it is in very bad condition, separate it in another bag and give a proper food material in a separate bag, because this food material needs to be mixed with water, and we can give it as a food for the cow. So cow can get a very good food, and the respective cow dung can be reused for our industry. And so no money flow happen between this transaction. And another thing is that 200 kg of organic manure, we can, the present status is that selling the urea 50 kg bag is more than 1500 rupees. By considering this organic manure, we are selling just 10 rupees per kg, we are getting 2000 revenue. So all the operations which is handled over here in this chain for 1 day, which will not exceed more than 1000 rupees, including wages for the workers. So why Karanja? Earlier I proposed that I am going to plant only Karanja tree, not other trees. Why Karanja is that Karanja is a tree which is very suitable for Indian context. It doesn't need water, it doesn't need to pour water regular basis. Also it will try to live at any different climatic conditions in Indian context, as well as it will give some seeds which can be used to produce biodiesel. So I don't want to get into deep in the biodiesel production and all. I am just giving a information that the raw material of biodiesel is from the Karanja oil. So India is having 175 million hectare wasteland as per the statistics from the central government, and the diesel consumption of the Indian railways is 2 billion liters per annum. So considering 10% of the wasteland in India, we can try to cultivate this Karanja tree means we will get obtaining, we will try to get 5.5 times of the Karanja oil if we process it perfectly, so that we will try to avoid a large amount of forex towards the crude oil. So this is the rough calculation, not rough calculation, it's the exact calculation which was made by the NOVAD, the Central Agricultural Board, by growing the Karanja tree in a perfect area. That is that we are for 1 hectare they are cultivating 500 trees, and of course all the trees can't grow perfectly, so we are considering 80% success, so we are considering 400 trees from 1 hectare, and after 11th year, based on the calculation of plantation maintenance, seed yield per hectare and per tree, gross income for selling 1 kilogram of Karanja seed is considering 4 rupees, and net income we will try to get the profit of 16,000 rupees for 1 hectare, from 1 hectare, like that. So after that, each year they will get some profit, and we can share that profit towards each household, and that will lead for a good for afforestation environment as well as carbon capture activity from that particular city. So this paves a way for making the MSW of household MSW into an organic manure industry, as well as moving forwards towards afforestation environment. Thank you.
Projects, you can see there is a lot of innovation in terms of the spread of the projects and contents, and I would like you to continue to do your work. The only one comment which I would like to make, in order to get a complete report, a missing section, which of course you didn't have time to do it now, is to start to think about the literature. What's on it? Okay? White papers, some of the presentations cited some studies. So you want to have a full reference of that literature and have a reference section completed, okay? To complete the report. Okay? All right. So good luck everybody, and now we'll break.